Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to just be covering a bump, which a bump for us is not a correction, and that's very decisive. If the dog is having an expression in life, a feeling in life, we want to be supporting them through that feeling, not saying no to that expression, no to that feeling via a correction. So some people will analyze our communication as being a correction, and that's fine. But for us, we are supporting the dog. The feelings inside are, inside of us are, you're having a really strong feeling. Let me guide you to a better place. Not stop doing what you're doing, stop feeling what you're feeling. This makes me uncomfortable, ... So that's paramount, and that is just what makes this communication different than a correction, is that we're coming from a level of support. We're not saying no. We're not trying to stop the dog from doing something. We're just trying to guide them to feel something different, which is more trust, more harmony, and more connection to life and to us. So when it comes to a bump, if I'm walking along with 6 here and I have a loose lead and then I go to do that, that to me is a correction. There's a snap to it. So I'm walking along on a loose lead, and then maybe I go up. Still a pop. There's kind of a wind up in the communication. And the communication kind of comes out of left field to the dog. Now, in horsemanship, you don't want to be coming out of left field with the horse because they are prey animals and you can startle them pretty good. And that's not going to be to the benefit of your relationship. And then obviously dogs, you could say, are predatory animals. They're predators. And so maybe they can tolerate this kind of more forceful kind of communication and popping and so on and so forth, and it's not going to send them to a bad place. But regardless of species, to us, we like to go to the feeling level. So if a dog is having an expression of fear fight or fear flight, and then we're coming in with a sharp, startling, kind of out of nowhere, out of left field communication, that might feel a little challenging for them because they have these expressions for a reason, for self-preservation, and then we're coming in, startling them, discombobulating them, you could say, or overpowering them, depending on what tool you have, if you're using an e-collar or a prong collar. And that's just, from us, that doesn't feel good to the animal. So instead of having this gap in communication, no communication to then a bump or a pop on the lead, we like to have connection and then communicate. So notice I'm going to get connection in the lead. It's not a ton. See where I'm stopping there? But I'll get connection and then I communicate. So the pressure is faint here. There's connection in the lead, and then there's more pressure. So we teach dogs incrementally to feel this connection, find comfort and trust in it. And then if they feel more, that means to move their feet. Or move their feet and give us their head and their attention, which is a very important point. So I'll try to get him a little distracted with the ball here. So he's looking at the ball, Come on, look at it. So if he's kind of distracted, he's kind of glancing over at the ball, and then I come out of left field and pop him, again, that's not really going to feel good. He's just looking at the ball. Like, it's not a big deal. And so we're not going to use that correction. We're not going to try to snap the dog out of it. I would get connection and then bump. Notice that bump isn't eliciting what I'm looking for, right? So a lot of times, this is what we see with people, and they're bumping their dog, but they're not affecting change in them. They're not getting the dog's attention. So here, I'll increase a little bit more. Notice I got his feet, but I didn't get his attention yet. Now keep staying distracted. Keep staying distracted. So if I bump and just get the feet like that, right? That's not what I'm looking for. What you need to do, or what we look for in that situation, is to bump, elicit movement, and then maybe we need to follow that bump up through eliciting change and movement in the dog's feet to then get their attention. But if your bumps are falling short here and not gaining the attention of the dog, then you're falling short. So it's really important to know if you're getting to the dog's attention and asking them to kind of come back to you or not. Another element to, if you just bumped the dog, right? If you just bumped them and you didn't get that affect that change in their physiology and bend them, what can happen is that you can, in a situation with a really reactive dog, you would bump them. Let's say you're walking forward, okay? You're walking forward with the dog. And I'll use the ball. You're walking forward to the trigger, and then you're boom. You snap them. So look at his physiology. It's stiff as a board, right? So when you are working with a dog with a prong collar or shock collar, or whatever you want, mainly in a prong collar, even a slip lead here, if you just go to stifle and get the dog's attention like I have right now, there's still a lot happening in the dog's physiology that you're missing. So sure, you're getting the dog's attention, but how fluid and pliable are they in terms of their entire physiology? Which is why when we usually go to bump a dog, we're taking an angle or an arc away from the thing that they're hitting on, the trigger or the ball, to bend and bring more flexibility to their thoughts and their physiology on whatever that trigger or desired thing is, such as a ball like here. So I'll just keep using this as an example because he keeps going for it. So that's a little better. He's looking at me there. He's still a little stiff, and he's not giving to me. He's not coming to me immediately, right? So there, that's a little better, but it's still, even though I'm not sure how it's looking to you all, but he's still a little heavy in my hand. He's not really light as he normally is when there's no desired thing. And so when it comes to working with a dog, I know how Six feels when there's no trigger around. There's no ball around that he wants. And so I would be looking to gain that same level of feeling that I get when there's no trigger, when there is a trigger around. And so obviously, depending on your dog, you might not be able to get this close to the ball because they may be it just might be too much for the dog. And so you would work farther away. So when I work farther away, he's really light. Much more normal feeling in his fluidity and ability to come off, stay light in my hand, and also immediately kind of make connection. So all of these factors play a role in a bump. You got to make sure that if you are bumping, that you're not leaving your dog. You're not leaving the dog's physiology stiff. You're also not leaving their attention as well, because what can happen is that you can be getting the feet, but then not getting the attention. Like, that's a lot lighter. That's more of what a bump should look like. Pretty immediate and pretty light. Again, depending on the situation and life scenarios and so on and so forth. Your bumps may need to scale, but we only scale to a certain degree, and then we're most definitely taking more of an arc. So if, for example, I went to bump and he's just stiff and he's locked up, maybe the dog is reacting and being super aggressive or whatever, we're going to be taking more of an arc away from that thing and bending the dog, ensuring we get a bend in them, not scaling our bump to more firm and more firm and more firm and more firm degrees to get the dog to come off of those feelings and get them back to us. So if we're scaling our bumps and scaling and we're using a lot of effort, and there's a lot more energy involved in terms of going from a 1 bump to then a 2 bump to a 3, 4, 5, 6. If we're going in that direction, that's when we pivot and we bend the dog. We take an arc away from the trigger, because when you bend the dog, they become a lot more supple and light in your hand, as opposed to trying to stifle the dog and bump that energy that they have backwards into their physiology. Because I'm not quite sure where the reaction goes, but from an energetic standpoint, if you go to correct your dog and then the behavior goes away, where did that energy go? In our opinion, it usually comes out later, and you have to correct them again. Instead of, what we do is we'll work with the dog until they feel better. So we know the thought has dissipated, not based on force or pain, but because of time and patience and us being punctual with our support and being mindful of thresholds and so on and so forth. So if you're having to scale your bumps too much, try pivoting, try moving, work on your threshold. Maybe you're a little too close. And then also be sure that you're taking angles and arcs away from the trigger, away from your dog, and bending them. That's so crucial. So I hope that's helpful. I hope that's insightful. Thank you.